What's up, Sam? Love day, brother.
Love day, baby. I love Fortitude and 15 Thursdays, so it is love day. I'm excited for our topic today. It's going to be a fun one.
Yeah, dude. It's been a fun week so far, an elevated week. It's a hot week, in particular, up in the New York City. 95 degrees, which hopefully has peaked at the heat, and then now we're sloping down, which is pretty nice. But yeah, man, last week I posted a TikTok of us from our podcast, and it was a video of me, elevating in some way, and I have the new bookshelf behind me, and this damn TikToker commented and said, "Bro probably hasn't read any of those books." So, Mr. Bro, you inspired
Throw
this
your
week's...
shade, Parker.
Yeah. You inspired this week's Fortitude in 15. We're not going to talk about every single book that I've read on this bookshelf behind me. I mean, how many books do you think are on there? Like 50? 60 maybe?
Oh, yeah.
But we're going to talk about some books that we've read this year, some of our recommendations for Elevation Nation, and our thoughts on them. What do you think about that? Is that a good way to get back at this user 125 whatever on TikTok?
As long as you tag him in this reel, him or her, he or her, she or him, they or them, then yes. Get your revenge, Parker. You do read. I'm proud of you. Let's talk about top books 2024. Off to a hot start. Let me lead it off.
Well, I'm surprised that I have more books read than you. I really am surprised by that. How many have you read this year?
5.
5, okay.
To completion.
I'm at 6 to completion.
Yeah. Pretty darn close.
All right, so run through your whole list. I'll run through mine, and then we'll say our favorite, and then we'll say our most disappointing of the ones we've read. How about that?
Love it. All right. I have read so far Your Table is Ready, The Best Strangers in the World. I reread Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I read Make No Small Plans, and I read Noah Kagan's new book, $1 Million.
That's the most recent one that you've read? $1 Million Weekend?
I don't remember what order.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I think so.
All right, give us a one-sentence overview of each of them.
Your Table is Ready is the story of a maitre d' and the New York dining scene in the 80s and 90s and how absolutely crazy it was with the celebrities and type of people he was seeing and his journey in the food industry, which, Parker, I love learning about. Awesome book. The Best Strangers in the World is the autobiography of Ari Shapiro, who is a big DC guy, NPR reporter. Super interesting about his travels all around the world, learning from new and different cultures as a gay Jewish man. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, absolute legend of a book. Wanted to reread it as I went into my New Year planning. So that was the first one I read in January to rehash my strategic financial plan. Make No Small Plans is a book from the founders of Summit Series, Parker, which is a community event that you and I were potentially going to, and I wanted to read their story and how they started these incredible communities, bringing entrepreneurs, founders, and CEOs together. And last but not least, $1 Million Weekend. You made me read this one. You made me pre-order this one. Good friend, pretend friend, but I feel like he's a friend. Entrepreneur, CEO of Sumo, Noah Kagan, huge influencer in the entrepreneurship space, one of the first employees at Facebook, wrote his book all about how he could come up with $1 million business in a weekend, and walked you through that process, which inspired us, I think, on some of our journey with Elevation Nation.
All right, what's the winner? What's the 2024 winner? Or let's start with the loser. What's the loser of the group, and then what's the winner?
Oof. Loser, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I read it every year, so it's still impactful, but it wasn't new and exciting. So I'll make that the loser.
I read that last year. I think that was the last book I read in 2023, and I read it for the first time, and it's so out there in a sense that the philosophy makes you think. I agree with a lot of his points, but some of his other points, it makes you just take a step back and be like, damn, like, this is really interesting. This is a little bit out there.
And I don't know how much it holds true to the 2024 market right now with how much he values real estate. I mean, I know real estate is still a play that both you and I are getting into, but it's still certainly challenging to get into real estate right now. So
yeah, totally.
That was an interesting one.
And the winner.
I mean, the winner. Your Table is Ready, I thought was awesome. I'm obsessed with like food industry chef autobiographies. This was right up that alley of like Anthony Bourdain, his first book that got him on the map. It was Secrets of a Kitchen, the drugs, the alcohol, the chaos, the celebrities, the business side of really starting, running, and operating a restaurant. And while I don't really want that life, I was really interested in and fascinated by it.
I love it. That's great. What's next? What's next on the agenda?
I'm reading Give and Take right now for the first time. So
that's a winner.
I'm enjoying it. Yeah, I think I'm trying to hyper-analyze what type of person I am. And I hope I'm a giver. I try to be, but it's always something you can work on. So yeah, it's been some good books this year. All
Love
on
Adam
my
Grant.
handy dandy Kindle. Take it everywhere. Easy to carry. Always fully charged with lots of books. Convenient. Different font sizes, different colors. The world is my oyster on my Kindle.
Are you trying to sell me on the Kindle? The only thing I would tell you
I said what I said.
That is a good sales point for the Kindle is that, you're not going to have people on TikTok saying, dude, you don't read because, Kindle's a piece of technology. You don't have a bookshelf to showcase it.
It's true. All right, Parker. 2024. What books have you
right.
read so far, man?
Let's go. In order. The first one I read was Dopamine Nation. I forget who gave me the recommendation for this, but this book is all about the idea of how addicted we are to dopamine as people and how it drives our entire life in ways that we never even thought. We're addicted to things every single day that, when we think of addiction, we think of drugs or alcohol or sports gambling. But the author makes a really interesting case that we're also addicted to many things that are good for us or we think are good, like reading, for example. And I just thought it was really fascinating to start the year off. My next book was The Comfort Book. This was a recommendation, I believe, from Zach Stein after Philip passed away. And it's just a book of a bunch of small excerpts that this guy put together that just make you kind of feel good and happy and see the world in a positive light. It's a really easy read. It's more of like throw it on the back of your toilet and pick up and read one page here and there rather than, diving through from front to end, in one read. So that's a book I read kind of on the side. Next book was certainly an interesting one, Read, Write, Own by Chris Dixon. Sam, I've tried to get you to read this. It's about the next era of the internet and learning a lot about the technicalities of like the blockchain and cryptocurrency. I thought it was fascinating. I couldn't be higher on crypto, but I really appreciated that book because it dove into a lot and it educated me even more on that entire world. The next was The Algebra of Wealth by Scott Galloway. He just released this book, I believe, a couple months ago. Scott Galloway is, you might have seen him on probably TikTok, Sam, or even like CNBC. Pretty popular guy, NYU professor. And he just has another unique take on wealth, on money, on spending your time and what you should do. And I just want to pick his brain more. I want to learn from him, and this was the amazing way to do that. Next was The Alchemist. I picked this up for the honeymoon, crushed it over the honeymoon. I mean, I spoke about this on the last episode. What an incredible book, all about a boy trying to search for his personal legend and follow it. And it just has a unique story. It's new because you know me, I'm not a big fiction guy, but it was a great one, very quick one. And lastly, this one took a little bit for me, The Wager, also written by the author who wrote Killers of the Flower Moon. The Wager, just finished it last night, dude. really fascinating story about a group of people who sailed from England and got lost in South America and had to survive for a long period of time during the 1700s. So finished that last night, and man, I feel like I'm off to a good start. I have a good blend of historical fiction or historical nonfiction, a little bit of fiction in here. And so the loser on the year, though, I think I'm going to have to give The Wager, because people hype this book up a lot. And I'll be honest, I struggled a little bit through it. It's very factual, very this happened, then this happened, then this happened. I can see why people like it, but just not my type of book in a sense. I enjoyed the read. I'm glad I read it, but I'm going to take a break from this author for a little bit. Killers of the Flower Moon, then The Wager. I think it's time to move on, but granted, it was still a good book, but definitely the loser of the 6. And then the winner. Man, this is hard, dude. This is really, really hard. I want to say The Alchemist because it just was such a nice little read, but I think I'm going to have to go with Read, Write, Own. Chris Dixon about the blockchain and just the next wave of the internet. I think any entrepreneur should read this book, just because he makes such compelling arguments for why the future of the internet is going to be the way it's going to be centered around Web3 and, blockchains and cryptocurrencies and tokens. And I think it's fascinating. And the more I can learn about it, I feel like the better I understand it. And I still have ways to go, but certainly it was a really good read. And to take such a complex thing and make it digestible is very difficult. So I respect the hell out of Chris Dixon for doing that.
Good recaps. Books I have to read. I think Elevation Nation knows how important we think reading is in educating ourselves to get to where we want to go. And there's so many cool books out there. So Elevation Nation, comment below if you have a book recommendation for Parker or myself. We are excited to read them. We want to get some
my next book.
elevator. How many do you have?
I got another book that I'm reading. The next one that I've already started.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think you're going to like this one. This might be the winner of the year. It's The Creative Act, A Way of Being, I think it's what it's called. Yeah, The Creative Act, A Way of Being by Rick Rubin.
Rick Rubin, man.
Yeah, legend. Absolute legend. It's a little bit kind of like the comfort book, not like by the same content, but the way he makes digestible, excerpts. It's just about how he goes about his creative process, thinking about creativity. And it's so funny, Sam. It goes beyond like, oh, you have to be a musician to be creative and a painter to be creative. It's just the idea of being creative as a human being is like innate in who we are. We create art every day, whether we like it or not. And he's definitely got some really, really cool knowledge in there. So I'm liking it so far.
I love it. We've had a couple Rick Rubin quotes on the pod. He's an absolute legend. I'm excited to hear how it is. Nice, Parks. All right, elevator shout-outs, Elevation Nation. Elevator number 146, Matt Skolnick of Pepper, just cooked an entire feast for a bunch of friends, raising money for a charity as he runs the New York City Marathon in the future. Just really cool seeing him combine some of his passions, running, cooking, and catering to other people. Matt, we are cheering for you, man. Always proud.
What a guy. What a guy. And he's run the marathon later in November, so may have to grip some runs with him. All right, my elevator shout-out is for elevator 134, Jahan Ansari. Jahan made his way onto The Bachelorette, and although he only lasted 2 weeks, he got 1 rose. The journey came to an end on Monday night, but I thought it was pretty cool to be able to just flip to the TV, throw on The Bachelorette, which I certainly never watch or could care less about. But it was really cool to see an elevator on The Bachelorette. I think kudos to Jahan for all he did on the show, and now it's back to Gainful. And they are growing like crazy, doing amazing things.
Jahan, will you elevate this rose with us? That was a bad pun. Sorry. All right, till next week. Peace.